From the city of Springfield, please welcome Cora Scott and members of the Millennial SWAT team.
I feel I should have run out and done a round-off back handspring or something with that kind of introduction, but I think I might break my ankle if I tried it. We're so excited to be here. Thank you for having us. Thank you, 417's. This is a super cool event, and we're excited to help kick off things this morning. So it's a unique time in Springfield's history to be living here at this particular point in time. While we're not immune to the challenges that other cities have, we have an ingenuity in our DNA. And I think that a culture of collaboration that allows us and sets us apart, allows us to be different and sets us apart from other communities. That capacity for unprecedented collaboration allows us to come together in a way that lets us take calculated risks and do some pretty extraordinary things. And while I could go on for about 2 hours or maybe 2 days with examples of what types of collaborative communication is going on in our town, I'm told we only have about 20 minutes. So we'll keep this thing moving. Community leaders came together in 2015 to create the Downtown Council of Champions. And that council consists of leaders from our public and private sector organizations who have a passion for downtown. And they say that what makes up a healthy community is a healthy downtown. So these are businesses that are not necessarily located in downtown, but have a firm belief in that supporting that supports the whole community. So some of the members of that include the City of Springfield, which is my home organization, City Utilities, Central Bank of the Ozarks, Arvest Bank, Community Foundation of the Ozarks, and BKD, among others. And we were honored that well-regarded group of leaders decided to create a group of young professionals, which became known as the Millennial SWAT team. That's a phrase that was coined by City Manager Greg Burris, and essentially asked us to come together and form reconnaissance teams to visit other cities. How cool is that? It was a lot of fun. Full disclosure, I'm not a millennial, but I'm not a boomer either. So I'm the translator between the two generations, essentially. So today, this group has evolved. Our initial assignment, we visited, how many cities? 5 cities within 90 days or 6 months or something like that. Our original task was 90 days, so it was really fast and fun. But now we've evolved to from researchers to activists, and I would certainly describe these 4 as activists in our community, totally obsessed with creating ways to make Springfield the coolest city on the planet. So the cities that we visited, I think, are up on the screen. We visited Lincoln, Nebraska, Salt Lake City, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Des Moines, and Austin. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our esteemed selection of do-gooders from the Millennial SWAT team. These are four of the 20 members who will say a little bit about themselves and share with you what are some of the top takeaways they had from the cities that they visited. So please join me in welcoming first Aaron Abernathy.
Morning. How's everybody doing? As Cora mentioned, my name is Aaron Abernathy. I work for Arvest Bank, work in the commercial banking department. It's a great organization, been there for almost 10 years now, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this group and represent that company. But I did visit Lincoln, Nebraska, and it was a great group, great fun. We had perfect weather. Kristen actually came with me on that trip. But a few takeaways, just really briefly. I know we only have a few minutes. First and foremost is downtown Lincoln. In every visit that we had, in every interview that we had, it was very apparent that downtown Lincoln had a unified voice. And most of that was spurred on by the Downtown Lincoln Association. And they were the real collaborators. They were the ones that really were the glue that held all the organizations in downtown, including the Chamber, YP, many of the businesses and organizations, including those businesses and the tenants of those businesses, or those properties, they were the ones that really had the unified voice. Those businesses that were downtown, they always knew that the Downtown Lincoln Association had their best interest at heart and had the downtown's development and progress 100% at heart. The second thing that I want to talk about just briefly is that there was a very detailed plan set in motion in Lincoln, and it was a plan specifically for downtown development. 2005, they said, you know what, we don't want downtown to die. And I think that's a good thing, right? We don't want downtown to die at all, ever. But what they did was they said we need to have a detailed plan. So they came up with this plan, and it is extremely detailed. You can Google it. I think it's called Downtown Lincoln Master Plan. But essentially, it had all kinds of specifications in there for facades, for height requirements, and everything. But there was the emergence of districts during this time also in downtown Lincoln. 2012, they decided to revamp it because during a recession, there wasn't a lot of development, even though they weren't hugely impacted. But in 2012, they really started to come into their own and develop these bike trails, these individual bike trails, and develop these huge districts that had their own personas and their own destinations, their own niche, if you will. So essentially, there was this huge detailed plan, and I'll get into more a little bit later, but those were my biggest takeaways, was the fact that there was a huge detailed plan and the fact that there was a unified voice.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Aaron. And Kristen Milam is here with us today. She's a communication coordinator in my office at the City of Springfield. And Kristen, you visited, among others, Chattanooga, Tennessee?
Yes,
Can you
and I
tell
was
us a
also
little
part
bit?
of Team Lincoln with Aaron. So visited Chattanooga. It was a really fantastic trip. A lot of big takeaways from it. But there were two major things. One was a mantra that every organization we met with kept repeating, and that was, we are creating Chattanooga for Chattanoogans. And that was really something that we thought about because it was very genuine, and you could see that unique personality and things that were very, very uniquely Chattanooga permeating throughout their downtown. So that was really fascinating. The other thing we learned about was just their development. Their development style is that they focus on developing intentionally and really focusing on good design. So there are several organizations that are able to own property and look at what truly is needed in that downtown and hold on to it for a while and wait for the stars to align and wait for that really neat idea that just comes to fruition, and they're able to move on it. But they really focus on what could this building look like, how could it function, what purposes do we need to have served in our downtown, and they always make it beautiful. They also make it an art piece. It functions, but it's also beautiful.
Great, thank you very much. One thing that I think is really great about Springfield is that we reach out to everyone and feel that everyone is a part of downtown Springfield, and it's our downtown. And so that's why I'm optimistic as we continue these conversations that everyone will get involved in the conversation of what the future could be for Springfield's downtown. But Ryan is here, and you visited, among others, the city of Des Moines, and that's a pretty cool city. They've got some really neat new things going on. In fact, we lost our assistant public works director to Des Moines, who's doing some cool things there. But tell us a little bit about what you saw in Des Moines.
Sure. I think Des Moines was very interesting. Kind of building off what Aaron said, is not only did they have a unified plan, but they had a unified voice about that plan. And that was not only in their marketing and what they were saying. I think it was extremely interesting. Before we went out and got meetings with all these people. I'm talking mayor, people with city and Greater Des Moines Partnership. And every single person that we went to after the meeting was done, they would say, have you talked to this person? Have you talked to this person? And it was the same 8 people over and over and over. And so not only are they, pointing us back to that unified message they have and that unified plan, but it's the same people, or those figureheads that they had telling us that plan. I think that was something that was really interesting and really helped solidify what they were trying to get out. Something that Des Moines had, in addition, was regional buy-in to their downtown area. The region saw it as their downtown. It wasn't just the city of Des Moines' downtown. It was everybody's downtown. And I think that was really important to them. They realized that there was this downtown flight in the early 90s and even early 2000s, and in order to bring people back in, they had to have people start working downtown. So they had to make it easier to get there. They needed to make people believe that they wanted to be down there. And I think that was something that we saw when we were there. It was that people wanted to be downtown. People wanted to be in that area. And if you asked, what's going on tonight, it was in downtown. It was in the center of the city. So I think that was important for that regional buy-in.
Thank you very much. And Teresa, I was supposed to go to Austin with you, and I had some crisis. I know that's a shocker. There was a crisis here in Springfield that kept me here, but I know that you and Ryan DeBoof went to Austin, and that's a cool city. It's been an it city for decades, has even challenges with being so popular. So tell us a little bit about your top takeaways from Austin.
Yeah, so I am Teresa Coyan. I work at Cox Health, and first of all, I was just very privileged to be part of this group. I thought it was just very forward-thinking on behalf of our community to send this group to various communities, and so it was truly an honor to be part of this SWAT team. But yeah, I went to Austin, Texas, and I've heard about Austin time and time again from all walks of life. And so I was excited to go because it was actually my first time to go. And so I had all of these preconceived ideas of what Austin would be like just from hearing so many things. And anytime I'm like looking to go somewhere, everyone's like, you got to go to Austin. And so I went in kind of thinking that way, and so we had all these meetings set up with the chamber and the foundation and various members of the community and people from the young professional organizations just to better understand what makes Austin so great. Why do people want to go there? And it was interesting to me to hear more of the history of Austin and to hear about the old Austin versus the new Austin and how initially it was a community that was known for music and kind of this group of people that were part of old Austin that were known as hippies and just wanting to do the music scene and they wanted to keep it you probably have heard, keep it weird, and they wanted to keep it small, and they wanted what they had there for themselves, and they didn't want a bunch of people coming in. But as people started hearing about this music scene, they started going there and going to these festivals, and then different IT organizations and different big businesses decided to locate there. And so first it's this music scene that's bringing people there, and then it's the IT industry, and then it kind of spurred into this cultural, attractive community that people wanted to be part of. And so it's interesting because the old Austinites really didn't want all of these people coming in, so they're still very resistant, and they're still there, but they're resistant to all of this growth.
And so there's naysayers?
Yeah, there are naysayers.
We don't have any of those in Springfield.
And so it was interesting to kind of hear that as we went different places, that while there is this growth and people want to be there, it's not always been the plan of Austin. And so it was another big takeaway for me is, thinking along those lines, I'm like, okay, so what are you guys doing for this talent attraction? How are you getting all these people here then if it really wasn't the plan to have this influx of people come? What are you doing? And time again, people are saying, we don't have any initiatives along the lines of talent attraction. We actually are trying not to attract people here because they have 160 people that move there a day. And so that's a lot of people. It's of their growth, 67% are under 45. So it's a booming place for young professionals, for millennials. They like it, and what they like about it is less of what I thought would be the case. I really thought it would be, I thought I'd go and I'd come away with, oh, you've got to have this new convention center downtown, or this, this infrastructure that's downtown. No, they have a lot of issues with infrastructure and traffic and all of these things, but it's the culture that drives people there, and it's the way that they feel there. And last takeaway, it's their ability to embrace inclusivity. Everyone is welcome. Like when you're there, when you actually get there, once you're there, they want you to be part of that community. You can make a difference there. You actually are encouraged to fail. Like, yeah, if you want to start a business, go for it. We'll give you the resources. We'll support you. you have that ability to do whatever you want to do, and you're part of that community. So it was really interesting to see all walks of life working together, being part of that community together, and just embracing anyone.
That's fantastic. Let's make a goal that within 10 years we have some of those problems in Springfield, that we have too many people wanting to start businesses in our city. That would be amazing. And we'll learn from their infrastructure problems as well. So part of the issue of they built really fast and they have some issues with their roadway infrastructures that challenge them. The Millennial SWAT team put together a report, and this is a concise summary of all of these visits, along with about 9 recommendations to community leaders. And you can find this online at springfieldmo.gov/millennials. And I encourage you to take a look at that. A lot of these recommendations have made their way into community leadership discussions. For instance, I am aware that the Chamber is leading a community visioning effort, and there's a lot of common themes, and some very good ideas that were brought forward with this team, I think, are really being taken seriously and included in some of those future plans. And I know that they are at the City of Springfield as well. So, in the time that we have remaining, I have a question for each of you. And the first one is to Aaron. One of the recommendations that emerged was to better engage university students. And in Springfield, I don't know if everyone's aware, though, our collective attendance of university students is about 40,000. And that is the equivalent of The Ohio State University being in the middle of Springfield, Missouri. So we have university students that are ready to be engaged. Aaron, tell us a little bit about what you saw on your trips and how they engaged university students.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, engaging university students was certainly something that was a theme across pretty much every city that we went to. And yeah, 40,000 people, that's a small town, guys. I mean, that's amazing. And we feel like in order to engage and retain those people, that we really need to speak to their success, right? We need to essentially try to help them foster success, right? And hopefully stay here and see how cool Springfield is. So there's a couple of different ways that we identified as a group that I want to go over real quickly, and I'm going to give you 2 really awesome examples of our visit in Lincoln. First and foremost, we feel that continued growth in with the university students is really needed with internships. I mean, honestly, internships. We need more internships. And that needs to be a collaborative effort with the downtown association, with the chamber, with organizations that are in and around downtown. And that focus of those internships does need to be on how cool it is to live and work downtown. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things. The second thing is some incentives. One of the things that Lincoln did, and I'll share a quick example here. One of the things that Downtown Lincoln Association did in order to engage new students was they had a program called Downtown 101. And actually, I think we have a picture of it. It's right in the middle. And it's a little booklet, and essentially what they did is they had this huge event. They had music, they had swag, they had food and all this cool stuff, but they would give out these little booklets, and these booklets had assignments, if you will. And the assignments were to get the student to just go visit these cool places in downtown. But one of the things that they had to do is they had to take a selfie, and they had to hashtag, it was like Downtown Lincoln Association, right? Mm-hmm. So what they did, super low cost. After these students would complete this, they would take it back to the Downtown Lincoln Association. Downtown Lincoln Association would give them a $50 gift card to be used at partnering businesses in and around downtown, right?
Yes.
And so not only did they get them to visit, but then they get them to come back. And we didn't ask, and I wish I would have asked prior to this, but I would say that most of those students still came back and visited those places that they went and visited downtown.
And I believe that the Downtown Springfield Association heard about this idea, and they all have already started a similar initiative in our downtown.
It's awesome.
So they didn't wait.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's fantastic. It's a really cool thing in order to engage and give some incentives to those students. Another thing is just in continuing to plug them in. One of the things that Lincoln Young Professionals did was they actively recruited university students and immediately got them involved with a next gen program, which was getting them involved with nonprofits and making them aware of nonprofits and getting them plugged in there. Another thing that Lincoln Young Professionals did, which I thought was fantastic, was they started a program called Girls Who Code. And they actually targeted, at this point, junior high students and high school students, and started teaching them skills that would be, one, necessary for their economy, but then also for the economy in and around the United States in coding. And it's a pretty fantastic thing, just engaging right from the start. And Lincoln itself, because of this engagement, I mean, many of the people that go to school there, they end up staying there.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, it's going to be rapid fire questions for the rest of you. I apologize. We are just so excited about these things that we learned. Again, they're all in this Millennial SWAT Team report online that you can take a look at. Okay, Kristen, there's a lot of discussion around town about the importance of outdoors and maybe that being a differentiator for developing a persona for Springfield, because we are tied in the middle of the Ozark Mountains. We are also blessed with having right down the street from here America's #1 best new attraction, which is Johnny Morris's Wonders of Wildlife. So there's been discussion, I know, at the city for at least 10 years, but it's really picking up steam about maybe a project in our downtown. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, in several of the downtowns we visited, there were major revitalization projects focused around a waterway. When we went to Chattanooga, it was the riverfront area along the Tennessee River, and in Lincoln, it was the Antelope Valley area, which is a creek that ran through their downtown. And these projects focused on a waterway. Why? Because they're pretty, but also because there's sometimes a lot of flooding. And a lot of people don't realize that in the city of Springfield, the Jordan Creek runs through the very center of our downtown, and there are so many different opportunities to bring that to life and to make that a major focal point and amenity for our downtown. The city of Springfield, actually, the U.S. Corps of Engineers came in and partnered with the city after some major flooding in 2000 and did a 10-year feasibility study on what could be done to kind of reduce that flooding. And one of the recommendations was bringing Jordan Creek to the daylight, creating a system of channels that people could actually see. Right now it's underground, but that people could actually see. So some of the benefits that this could bring to our downtown is to bring in that green space and bring in that outdoor feel that we definitely don't really have in our downtown currently. But it could also incorporate trails. It could be a transportation hub for downtown and connect people that live, work, and play downtown to healthcare, to the universities. It could also incorporate art, water features, pavilions. It could really have the opportunity to change the face of our downtown and really incorporate in some of that, the trends that are going on in our community right now.
Absolutely, that's very exciting. Certainly not an overnight type project, but something that could transform our whole downtown and create some waterfront property. The first thing I asked our engineers were, could we put a boat on it? And then they laughed at me. So I don't think it would be that deep of a waterway, but perhaps in some areas.
It would be very similar to, we've daylighted the northern part of Jordan Creek. You can see that along North National between Silver Springs Park and Smith Park, where there's a lot of natural landscaping and a trail there. So it'd be very similar to that, but potentially more water in places.
Absolutely. Ryan, a common theme that was shared among several of the cities we visited was the utilization of existing characters, histories, and strengths to create downtown destinations. What ideas did you find to expand the public perception of what downtown is, and how could we learn from that in Springfield?
I could be very quick with mine because we're currently doing it.
Awesome.
It's great. I think one thing that in Des Moines that was very interesting was they would all say, "Oh, have you got our map yet? You need to get this map." And it was the exact same map. Everybody gave us the exact same map, and they pointed to the exact same things. So it was those things they currently have and the buildings that they're revitalizing, but pointing people in those directions. We've got if anybody knows, Springfield is banked. We are very banked. You've got Central Bank of the Ozarks, you've got Arvest Bank. We need to continue funding those projects. We need developers to continue doing what they're doing and developing that downtown area. And I think that's very pivotal and something that those cities that we visited definitely recognized, was utilizing those assets that they had and not kind of building around them. It was using them and revitalizing it.
Absolutely, thank you. And speaking of development, one of the things that this team identified as a need in our downtown area is more affordable housing for young professionals. We've had just an explosive growth in student housing downtown, particularly on Park Central Square and to the south. But Teresa, you visited a really cool housing development in Austin. If you don't mind wrapping us up and telling us what you saw there.
Yeah, so while I was there, probably one of the things that would have attracted me to Austin more than anything was this planned neighborhood. It was called Miller Neighborhood, and it had been they developed it in a place of town that had been an airport at one point, an airport terminal, and so it had closed and they had opened a new one, and so there was all of this space that could be public-private partnership, mixed-use type of space, and they decided to do a planned neighborhood there. And it's a mix of affordable housing, and then some of the housing is obviously not affordable. It very much ranged in price, but the thing that I liked about it more than the look and feel of the homes was the concept around the neighborhood, and something that was attractive to me as a young professional. And they were trying to kind of take you back to that time when you actually knew your neighbors and you lived life with community and you trusted the people next to you. And they had all of the homes have front porches, back porches, and then very small yards with the concept of a lot of green space around the neighborhoods. And so you'd see like kind of a circle of houses that were built very closely, high density housing developments, but then the backyard, it would all be shared space with shared playgrounds and things that you could do together. And this wasn't just a small neighborhood. You can see it actually on the map there. Very large, 770 acres of neighborhood and amenities and things that you could do together, but a lot of things were related to shared space. And actually around the entire thing was this, they call it the Green Necklace, and it basically is a trail system all the way around, miles and miles of trail that actually connects to all of the trail systems that go throughout the whole Austin community. So it's just really cool to see that, and there were a lot of amenities beyond that, but the concept more than the actual development here was creating more of that sense of community in as we build housing options. I see Brad, our one right here, and I know, he's been very forward thinking in our community in terms of the pocket neighborhood approach that he is developing, and kind of that same concept of creating that sense of community with people that you live around and you want to be around and you want your children growing up with. And so I think that it's something that the young professionals aspire for, is that connectivity with people and trusting and just knowing your neighbors and having people surrounding you that you want to, live life with.
Very exciting. So that's about all the time we have, but I want to point out that this group continues to work, and I appreciate all the support and help that you all provide along with the other 16 members of this team. Take a look at the Millennial SWAT team report online. In particular, if you work for one of those organizations that are already a part of this Downtown Council of Champions, ask your supervisor, ask your CEO if you can be involved in these Millennial SWAT team efforts. Our next step is to break up into subcommittees and launch some specific projects. Some projects we liked were not very expensive and were something that we can implement right away, so we're going to take a look at that. And as a closer, I'll let you know that we meet often for happy hours because that's the best way to brainstorm. So anyway, if you're interested in joining our effort, we'd love to have you. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for caring about our community.